The Golden State Warriors have by far been one of the most interesting teams to follow in the past handful of years. Between their absolute domination to collapsing and becoming one of the worst teams in the league due to injury, it's safe to say that this franchise had their fair share of ups and downs. But now things are finally looking up for this team again. After having a far from perfect season the past 2 years, this Warriors team was able to get 3 players in the lottery of 2 drafts, and one of them, or maybe even more, have the potential to be a star in the league. Today, we have to talk Golden State Warriors, in particular taking a deep dive into this team's young talents in James Wiseman, Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga, and going over whether or not these players could be the Warriors' next dynasty, along with discussing the type of role these 3 players will have with the Warriors team, and whether or not they will be able to win at the highest level now that they are fully healthy once again. But before we get into all of that, if you've been enjoying the videos lately, it would be absolutely clutch if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew. We are trying to get past the 10,000 subscriber milestone before the next NBA season begins on October 19th, and about 95% of you guys watching aren't even subscribed, so if you just hit that sub button below, we could actually get to that goal very quickly. Not to mention, I would just really appreciate it. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk Warriors, because even though 2 seasons of losing with prime Steph Curry isn't ideal, it's safe to say this team was rewarded for their losing in the draft lottery, where they were able to get James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moody. Going into the offseason, many including myself believed that this Warriors team wouldn't even be picking these guys, and would instead be trading for a star to help win now. But now that it's all said and done, I just can't help but feel that this team has a tremendous amount of potential now, and in the future, depending on what they do. Not only does this franchise have 2 of the best shooters of all time in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but they also have basically 3 rookies that should be able to play decent roles as soon as next season. But the question is, how much of an impact will these young players have on the team? Well, at the moment, this is somewhat of a gray area because of the fact that we haven't seen Kuminga and Moody play for the Warriors aside from the Summer League, and even James Wiseman has a small sample size of play last year due to injury. But even though we haven't seen a lot, we can still take a look at what the players have done so far and discuss their potential upside. And with that being said, there is no better player to start out with than James Wiseman. Despite having his season cut short, Wiseman has the potential to have a monumental impact for this Warriors team in their win now efforts next year. Wiseman showed flashes of being a star center that the Warriors could use desperately, and his potential to stretch the floor with his somewhat solid perimeter shooting. Last year, it was very clear that Wiseman, well, he was basically a raw prospect out of high school, but it is very apparent that the Warriors want him to grow and have a bigger role, and they paid big money to try and make this happen. If you didn't know, the Warriors recently hired Serbian basketball legend Dejan Milovic to join the coaching staff for the Warriors. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but this guy is the coach who developed Nikola Jokic into what he is today. And the Warriors, well, they're hoping that he can do the same thing for James Wiseman. According to multiple reports, this hiring by the Warriors was strictly an investment for James Wiseman, and they have been interested in making this move since they drafted Wiseman last offseason. Based on the narratives that we've seen, Milovic is the type of guy that will push their talents to the limits and try to develop them as fast as possible, and many believe this will give Wiseman the push he needs. Milovic, according to many, has, quote, blunt or even fiery methods when developing talent, and to say the least, I think this will help Wiseman in a big way, and possibly so much so that he turns into a win-now center that this team needs. Like I said, Wiseman can potentially do it all. The man can stretch the floor, jump with anyone, protect the rim, be a lob threat, literally anything this team needs. Now, I'm not going to say what Wiseman needs to improve, because honestly, I think that he just needs to polish all of his skills and get comfortable in the league. But what I will say is that Wiseman does need to do one thing for this season for the Warriors, that is, being healthy. As you all know, injuries have plagued this Warriors team for the past few years, and now that things are finally looking up, Wiseman needs to stay healthy for this team. And if he does, let me just say that the NBA could be in trouble, because I think that we all know that Wiseman could become a monster force sooner than we think. Enough of Wiseman though, because I've made plenty of videos going over his game and what he needs to improve, which I will link at the end of this video. What we need to talk about is the new additions in Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, because to say these guys could have a bigger impact than people are anticipating is an absolute understatement. Like mentioned earlier, I and many others believe the Warriors wouldn't even end up with these players because there were so many rumors about them making a trade for a star. Yet, here we are. It's not often that you get 2 guys in the lottery that are both potentially pieces that could help you out right away, but it looks like the Warriors might have lucked out. I'm not trying to blow things out of proportion here, but just a few days ago, Kuminga and Moody combined for a 40-point blowout in the Summer League game, and even though the competition is worse, it is still impressive to say the least. If you watch these games, you would know that Kuminga and Moody both looked very solid, but will they be able to contribute to the Warriors' win-now ambitions? Well, that's up for debate. After the most recent Summer League game, Steve Kerr enlightened us on what his plans are for the rookies when he said this, quote, "We're planning on giving them the best possible support, and in my mind, there is no pressure at all on either of them to play or expect too much. But if they're ready, then that's great, but they'll be able to progress at a very natural rate." Honestly, after hearing what Steve Kerr had to say, I think both of these players got put in a perfect situation situation. After all, it was very apparent that Kuminga and even Moody were both pretty raw players that had a lot of potential, which means whatever team they joined would likely develop them in order to get playing time. After this statement by Kerr, it was made known that the Warriors don't need these guys in their win now efforts, but if they're playing good enough, they will get the minutes for this team, and I believe there's a very good chance that this will happen. I mean, look at a guy like Jordan Poole last year. He was in the exact same situation with the Warriors not needing him, but he balled out and earned minutes, which led to him becoming one of the better options for this team off the bench. And I believe the same is in the cards for Kuminga and Moody. Both of these guys have star potential, and after they take a few months to get used to the NBA and improve their play, in my eyes, there's a very good chance that they break out and make it into the rotation. But the question is, what exactly do they need to improve to do this? Well, it was very clear that despite balling out in the summer league, both of these guys definitely had some things to improve upon before they get a solid role with the Warriors. For Kuminga in his summer league games, we saw the insane upside, especially because of where he was drafted at. Kuminga showed flashes of elite athleticism and explosiveness that had everyone hyped. Not to mention, the defense was very solid as well, and many believe he's going to be a guy capable of guarding 1 through 5. Not to mention, his defense was very solid as well. But with the good comes some things that need improvement, and despite balling out at a very high level, there is one thing that Kuminga needs to improve if he wants to become a star in the NBA, and help the Warriors win now. That being shooting. Despite getting to the rack at will, when it came to the perimeter, Kuminga basically couldn't hit a shot to save his life, and the stats don't lie. During his G League season last year, Kuminga took over 5 threes a game and only cashed in 24% of them, which, to say the least, is horrendous for someone shooting the ball that much. If Kuminga can improve his streaky shooting, he will undeniably be one of the better 3-and-D players in the league, and there's no doubt in my mind the Warriors will be trying to develop Kuminga's shots and turn him into exactly what he's capable of. But unlike Kuminga, Moses Moody showed out and shot very well from beyond the arc, which has led many to believe we could be witnessing the next dynamic duo for the Warriors, but that's for a whole nother video in itself. As far as Moody goes, overall he played very good as well. Between the versatility and craftiness on the offensive end, shooting the ball very well, Moody is making a good first impression for the Warriors and will likely get a bigger role as the season progresses. But what can he improve on to help the Warriors win now? Well, despite being very good in his first few Summer League games, we just have to keep in mind that this is the Summer League. And being that Moody didn't show any huge flaws, it will be difficult to say what he needs to improve on until he actually plays true NBA competition once the regular season begins. But if I were to give one thing that Moody can improve on right now, I would say playmaking. Because even though there were a few games where he was dropping dimes, if he can dial in that skill and play like that consistently, there's a very good chance the Warriors offense would flow much better with the bench unit in. Not to mention, he is already a legit scoring threat, so this could help out his game in a big way. All in all, I'm just as excited to see Moody ball out as I am with Kuminga and Wiseman, because in my eyes, all of these players have the potential to become stars in the league. But we just have to discuss if this can help the Warriors win now. Despite the popular opinion that the Warriors needed to trade for a star in order to contend this year, I think at the moment this is far from the case. I mean, this team made some sneaky moves this offseason, getting guys like Otto Porter Jr., Bjelica, and more. Not to mention the 2 studs they drafted in Moody and Kuminga. Even though this team may be young, I believe they have tremendous upside if these players can improve and step up sooner rather than later. Just think about it this way: if Draymond fixes his jumper, Klay comes back to even 75% of what he was, and Wiggins and Wiseman improve, this team already has an amazing starting lineup they could definitely get a top seed in the West with. That is, if they're able to stay healthy. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, this team has Curry, who played like an MVP last year. Sure, this team lost pieces like Kelly Oubre, who were solid in the starting lineup when they were called upon, but they also added a tremendous amount of depth with the guys I mentioned earlier and bringing back Andre Iguodala. All in all, if just a couple of Warriors young players step up, I believe they are a legit threat in the playoffs and could surprise a lot of people. Because fans forget, this team was able to win before KD with the young team centered around Steph and Klay. And well, things might be able to come full circle for this team and allow them to do this once again with the Splash Bros in their prime and the young core surrounding them. Whether or not the Warriors win at the highest level is up for debate, but you can't deny that this team is in a very solid position for the present and future with their roster. Let me know down below what Warriors video topic you would like to see next, and other than that, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Woods out.